Hello everyone, back to today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days for today's second video. This will take us into the second half of March. So, the very own Jam Friday, you can find that video here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a little bit and it's above the snow desk. It's going to take us, it takes us through rest of March, just about the start of April. And although the next week or so looks a little bit milder or less cold, actually the theme for the month with these long range models is still quite cold. And we may have signs of northern blocking re-emerging at the end of March into the start of April, which would be quite significant because by then we're talking about sort of wildlife springing into life. Growers, farmers, gardeners want to crack on with the spring, and it may be quite delayed if the JMA and CFS V2 models are right. So have a look at that and see what you think. This, as I say, going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days, and then we'll finish off with the third video, which is going to be an events video looking at the Cheltenham Festival, the second update for that. So we'll begin by having a look at the Central England temperature from Hadley provisional up to yesterday. So this is how the first week of March 2018 stands. Comes out at 2.3 degrees. That is provisional. It is subject to probably downwards corrections at the end of the month, which is an anomaly of 2.5 degrees below average. So we're still talking about a very significant cold and average deviation in the temperature anomaly for the first week of March. Nothing like the 8 degree below average anomaly that we had for the very first day of March when we was in the icy grip of the beach from years. It's nothing severe as that for the week, but a 2.5 degree anomaly for a week is quite significantly below average. We're probably going to see that lifting up further over next week. In fact, we will see it lifting up further over next week because temperatures, particularly over this weekend, are actually going to be a little bit spring-like. So we'll see a recovery in temperature continuing. I imagine when we get to around the week, middle of the month, the end of week 2, we're probably going to be less than a degree colder than average. So we'll see where things go then, of course, as we get through into the second half of the month. These are GFS temperature and precipitation on. So let's just have a quick look at London today. So the red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average. So we're going to have quite a spring-like weekend, so temperatures are lifting up, although it will be associated with rain at times, but nevertheless, temperatures on the surface could well get into the mid to low teens. Lowering with temperatures early next week, and then a bit of a lift up again. Then after that, we've got this period just here, where it is still quite inconclusive. This is the second half of March, of course. We've been toying with the idea that we might start to see colder air returning in the second half of March. It looks like the GFS actually pulled back from that quite a bit. So most of the ensemble members now look as though they're on the milder than average side as we go through into the second half of March. If that was to continue through to the end of the month, despite that brutally cold start to the month, it could well be that we finish up with a milder than average March if this ensemble is right, and if we don't turn things colder again in the second half of the month. There are very big ifs, and I say the seasonal long-range models from the Japanese CFS V2 models, they are both hinting at generally quite a cold second half to the month, particularly as you get through to the latter stages of the month, I think. So it is all very, very inconclusive at the moment, exactly where this March is going. What we can say is that the second week of the month, which is kind of like the reliable period, if you like, is this period just here. The second week of the month is generally going to be milder than average. So the first week of the month, as we know, just saw it with CET, substantially colder than average, but the second week is actually going to be milder than average. And then where things go beyond that, to the second half of the month, weeks 3 and 4, that is very uncertain. I hope you're able to follow this. It's very complicated. In terms of precipitation, just lots of rainfall spikes coming up. That's one thing we can agree on. It's going to be a very unsettled period throughout the next couple of weeks. Temperature anomalies are looking like that. So in the north, we're very close to average. So England and Wales, a little bit milder than average. That's for the week from today, the 9th, through to the 17th of March. Precipitation anomalies still coming out wetter than average, in for quite a lot of rainfall over the next week from the 9th to the 17th of March. This is how the GFS is looking then for Tuesday. Got a little bit of a transient ridge across the country on Tuesday, but there's still low pressure out in the Atlantic, and those low pressures start to swing in through the second half of next week. So wet and windy spell from Wednesday through to Thursday. Now this is Friday, when we are trying to build up the heights over Scandinavia. This is critical as to what's going to happen in the second half of the month. If this high pressure builds and sets up a proper area of high pressure over Scandinavia and an easterly wind, then it's going to start getting colder again. On this run of the GFS and within the GFS ensembles, the high pressure over Scandinavia is not building all that strongly. So we are still within the influence of the Atlantic, of low pressure in the Atlantic, despite the fact the jet stream remains on a southerly track. We are technically on the cold side of the jet stream. It's not overly cold, we've got low pressure close to the country, and we're bringing in the winds from a west-southwesterly direction. This takes up to day 10, and nothing comes of that high pressure over Scandinavia. So up to day 10, which is Monday the 19th of March, we remain in this west to southwesterly flow, with the GFS just very unsettled, bringing areas of low pressure in from the Atlantic, and very gradually the jet stream is starting to shift back northwards again. Into the extended range of today's 6-o'clock run of the GFS, and it stays unsettled overall, and eventually we start to try and build some high pressure to our south. So we finish up looking like that, and that's almost going back to a normal sort of weather pattern. Actually, we're starting to ridge up the Azores high in towards France, and then we've got this deep area of low pressure around Iceland. The jet stream is coming back northwards again. That's spring-like conditions, and it's a typical sort of weather pattern. No northern blocking at all there, just a straightforward westerly type situation by the end of this run of the GFS. It's a long way out, so the 25th of March, but it implies that by the end of the month, we may see an unravelling of the sudden stratospheric warming and all the implications we've had from it with abnormal weather patterns. We're back to a straightforward sort of westerly type flow of high pressure to the south and low pressure to the north. So as for GFS, it doesn't want to bring in any cold conditions. It's stepped back from that, as have the GFS ensembles, and it wants us eventually to go back to a normal flat westerly flow. Now this is the ECMWF midnight run. Again, starting on Tuesday, when we have got a little bit of a transient ridge across the country, but low pressure remains out to the west, and then these areas of low pressure swing in from off the Atlantic through the middle of next week, turning things very unsettled right way through to the end of next week. That takes us to Saturday 17th of March, a week tomorrow. Notice much more of a ridge over Scandinavia. Hasn't got us in an easterly wind at this point, but it is a much stronger ridge that we've got there, and this low pressure out to west of Ireland is being blocked by that high pressure. Now, by the time you get through just for day 10, this is Sunday the 18th of March, that high pressure is orientating itself, so it is almost starting to bring in an easterly wind. Notice heights are also rising close to Greenland, and that's how we finish up on Monday the 19th of March. It's not particularly cold, but it's a much more blocked situation, both to our north up here and also to our east, with this low pressure increasingly being forced back into the Atlantic. The jet stream is still on a southerly track going down here. GFS looks very different to that, so we have got a lot of uncertainty here as we go into the third week of March, and certainly the ECM is much closer to turning things colder than the GFS is. Then finally we've got the GEM. So again, this is the Canadian model. We start on Tuesday when we have a little bit of a transient ridge across the country, but it's not going to last. Low pressure is in control, coming in from off the Atlantic through the second half next week, bringing a lot of wet weather. But notice again, high pressure building over Scandinavia, and this is building it even stronger than we have on the east end. Yeah, so by the time you get through to Saturday 17th March, actually this high pressure is taking over the pattern. We've got the low pressure here that's being pushed down there with the jet stream, and this is actually beginning to turn the wings into the east, this area of high pressure that's over Scandinavia. As we go to day 10, that's how we're looking as we get to day 10. So a real battle is going on at this stage. We've got the low pressure in the central part of the Atlantic. The high pressure is up over Scandinavia. There's a weather front through there as well, and the jet stream is down there. So exactly what's happening there, I mean, it's possible that could be bringing some sort of snow event across parts of the country. It would depend on the exact upper air temperatures and also what dew points are doing, the parameters on the surface. But it certainly isn't all that far away from being a real battle between high pressure in Scandinavia and low pressure in the Atlantic, and potentially quite cold and wintry type scenario. So it really is a very uncertain this. Now we know from the long range models that they're keen to keep things, after this milder week coming up, they're keen to keep March as quite a cold month, and the blocking signal does grow as we get through to the final stages of the month and just into the very beginning of April. So maybe what's happening here is that the ECM and the GEM are a little bit too progressive in building this high pressure over Scandinavia. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer to get that going. But I still have a feeling that before this month is done, we're going to get another spell of quite cold and wintry weather. It won't be as cold as we had last week when we was under the influence of a very extreme cold air mass. It won't be anything as bad as that. But I still think we are at risk here before the end of March of getting some more cold, potentially snowy weather, and that would be particularly for northern and eastern parts of the country. But as I say, the GFS particularly wants to sort of normalise the pattern. Really. So by the end of that GFS run, we was back into a very typical setup of low pressure around Iceland, high pressure around the Azores, and a flat west or southwesterly flow, which is a million miles away from what the long range CFS and JMA and also these short range ECM and GEM models are showing. Quite complicated situation, but what we can say reliably is that for the next week it's going to be milder, but also much more unsettled. There's going to be a lot of heavy rain coming up in the next week, and we'll cover all of that in JMA, in the weekend forecast, of course. And just to say that also important for this period next week will be the horse racing event that's going on. So we'll be doing a update for that, and it'll be around 6 o'clock this evening. The Cheltenham Festival update number 2 will be with you this evening. Right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.